Looking back at the month of July, I realized just now that it was possibly the most incredible reading month of my life. Just listen to the 5 authors whose books I read in the month of July. Kazuo Ishiguro, Stephen King, Alistair Reynolds, Cormac McCarthy, last but not least, Toni Morrison. What an incredible month. Every single book was good or great. Most of them were great. Let's start with the shortest one, Cormac McCarthy, Sunset Limited. So out of the 5 authors whose books I read in July, 2 of them have won the Nobel Prize. Perhaps Cormac McCarthy should have received that award as well. He did, of course, get Pulitzer, I believe, for The Road, which I loved. I loved The Road. Bleak, dark, unforgiving. Sunset Limited is a completely different read. It's a short book. I highly recommend it. It's a conversation between 2 people, white and black. Fabulous book, quick read, but it's dark. It's dark in a completely different way than The Road is dark. I have not read Blood Meridian, but I'm guessing that one is probably, from what I've heard, the darkest, the bleakest, the most difficult to read of all the books that Cormac McCarthy wrote. All the Pretty Horses, which I read earlier this year, was beautiful, was incredible. There was violence there. Of course, there was death. Of course, it's Cormac McCarthy. But it had hope as well. The Road, very little of that. This book, in some ways, perhaps even less. It's a philosophical book. It's a conversation between 2 people with completely different outlook on the world, on life, on its meaning or lack thereof. Nihilistic at its core. Nihilism, I suppose, wins in a way. This book is the type of book that if you're in a bad place, you probably don't want to pick up and read. It's a book about someone who wants to commit suicide, and it's a book about someone who feels at the core of his being, he is the type of person who has to stop the other one, who has to show that there is a better way. God is the way for that person. We're talking about 2 people from completely different worlds, black and white. We have no names, but obviously black is a black man and white is a white man. White is a professor. Black spent a long time in jail. The things we find out in this book as we go on the journey of the conversation that these 2 characters engage in is profound. I think there are ideas here on the surface, there are ideas that are hidden, and it's possibly a way to look into Cormac McCarthy's mind and why his books were so dark. Why he felt that drawing on the dreariest of human emotions was what interested him. This book was, I think, incredible. It's a quick read. I read it in 2 sittings. You could probably do it in 1 because it's all conversation. I believe there's a movie also that was made from this book. I'm sure there were plays as well. If you've watched the movie, if you've read the book, let me know what you came away with after reading Cormac McCarthy's Sunset Limited. Were you depressed, or did you find some nuggets of wisdom that you could actually apply to your own life? So that's Cormac McCarthy. That's Sunset Limited. Now, the next book I want to talk about is from someone who did get a Nobel with good reason, Toni Morrison. I read Toni Morrison's Beloved, and it's one of my all-time best books ever. Putting science fiction aside, possibly my favorite book of all time. I think it was number 1 in my video that I put together of my top 10 books. I'll link that down below. Have you read Toni Morrison? Do you love her prose? I think it's stunning. I think it's beautiful. Much more lyrical, of course, than Cormac McCarthy's sparse, lacking punctuation, and type of prose. The syntax is weird. There, her, it's butter, but it's challenging at the same time. It's challenging because of its subject matter, just as it was with Beloved. Beloved, I think, is a little darker. I like Beloved more than The Bluest Eye, but The Bluest Eye was fantastic. 5-star all the way. Incredible story. We're looking at different vignettes of human life. And I think what we're seeing in this book is what I've been thinking quite a bit about, which is determinism. How events, how where you come from, who your parents are, your genetics, the events that have happened to you, how they shape you, and how little free will and decision making perhaps we really have. And I think this book in some ways, is a perfect example of that. It's a beautiful, beautiful novel that I really enjoyed. I could not stop reading from the first page. And there's a sentence, I think on page 1 or page 2 in this book, that really knocked me for a loop. It has a bit of a challenging structure as we're kind of jumping back and forth, and different characters are presented to us at different stages in their life. So as you get to the next chapter, you kind of have to take a moment to realize who the author is actually describing or talking about, what is going on. But then you're back in the flow once you understand what's going on, and the book again picks up. So it's got like this stop and go feel, this motion. I know in her book Jazz, Toni Morrison writing kind of is shaped by the music, by jazz, and how different instruments come in. I think this book has a little bit of that as well. Let me know if you've read The Bluest Eye or any other Toni Morrison, and what do you think about her writing. A Nobel Prize laureate, incredible books. I'm gonna read more by her for sure. Revelation Space by Alistair Reynolds, his first novel. Fabulous book, incredible ideas. Alistair Reynolds is, of course, the author of House of Suns, which is one of my favorite, all-time favorite science fiction books. And at some point, I'm hoping to put together a video where I rank all my science fiction books, all my favorite ones. And I know Alistair Reynolds is going to be in the top 10 with House of Suns. Probably not with Revelation Space, definitely not with Revelation Space, but it was still a good, solid read. It got me intrigued. There are some incredible ideas in this story. It got me excited. Just the way House of Suns blew my mind every, 50, 60 pages. Similar things were happening here. Characters were intriguing. The events, the world building was fantastic. His vision of the world is incredible. I mean, the guy can definitely write hard SF, but he also has interesting characters that he's introducing here, and the action is really good. Perhaps a little bit too long for my liking at one point, but the ending was fabulous, was intriguing. I need to reread the ending again just to make sure I'm fully understanding it, but I definitely am going to continue with Revelation Space. And yeah, I'm excited. Alistair Reynolds just cemented himself as one of my favorite science fiction authors currently writing. I mean, what else is he gonna come up with? This is really, really exciting stuff. Now, the other books that I read, I do not have them with me. They're back home in Colorado, but I do wanna talk about them. First of all, Stephen King with Salem's Lot. So as you may, if you've been watching these videos last few weeks, few months, I've been talking a lot about Stephen King and The Dark Tower. I'm loving The Dark Tower. It is becoming my all-time favorite series, perhaps. We'll see. I still have a few books to go. I'm gonna be reading book 5, which I think I have somewhere here. Hang on one second, let me get book 5. There it is, book 5, Wolves of the Kala, Stephen King. So I'm gonna be jumping back into this today. I am so happy, so excited to get back to this world. I took a month off from Dark Tower, but I still read Stephen King. I read the book that kind of ties things between book 4 and book 5, and that was Salem's Lot. In Salem's Lot, there is a character that is introduced, that we meet, who makes an appearance in this book. And now I am really excited to read it. I'm not gonna talk a lot about Salem's Lot. In case you haven't read the story, I recommend you do. It's a good one. It's fun. Characters are great. It's not, in my opinion, on par with It, or The Stand, or 11/22/63, or Misery, or some other books that I think would be ahead of it. But yeah, still, Salem's Lot was fantastic. Quick read, great action, characters that you root for. And if you don't know the twist in it, I think it's powerful. Most people probably do, and unfortunately some covers even kind of ruin it. So you know what's happening, and you know what the mystery is, you know who the killer or what the killer might be. But in any case, even if you do know, and you haven't read Salem's Lot, it's a good one. I had a great time reading it, and now I'm even more excited to jump back into Dark Tower with Wolves of the Kala, book 4. Wizard and Glass, book 4 was my favorite one, I think, so far in the series, if I had to rank them. So I can't wait to finish this video and start reading this book. I think I'm gonna do it right away because I have nothing else to do tonight. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And yes, there's one more book. There's one more book that I read this month, and that is And that book was written by another Nobel Prize winner, Kazuo Ishiguro, and it's called Never Let Me Go. So as again, if you've been watching these videos, you may know that I read Clara and the Sun a few months ago with Jonathan from Words in Time and Robin from Books.
I was connected to Clara. As long as she was good and happy, I was happy, you know? So the humans were, you know, I think
we had a great time with that book. I really enjoyed it. And I was curious to read a little bit more from Kazuo Ishiguro. And only 2 of his books fall into the science fiction category. And those are Clara and the Sun and Never Let Me Go. So I decided to compare them. I wanted to read Never Let Me Go, fairly close to Clara and the Sun. So I read it in July and I really liked it. I really liked it. I think I liked it as much as Clara and the Sun, but for different reasons. I thought the book was better, more mature, more interesting in a way, more profound, very interesting in how it slowly unravels and opens up the world for us, and the mystery of that world and the realization of what is actually going on, because I had no clue. Try not to, if you're gonna read Never Let Me Go, try just reading it. Try not to know anything about who the protagonists might be, why are they where they are. I think it's a much better way of reading. I think that's the proper way of reading that book. So yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. I thought it was profound. It was interesting. It was intellectually stimulating for sure. Thought-provoking. I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna be thinking about it. What's going on in that book is something that has definitely a lot to do with what is happening right now in the world. The way with Clara and the Sun, we had the artificial intelligence. Never Let Me Go presents a completely different scenario, but it's just as interesting, just as profound, disturbing in some ways. Anyway, Kazuo Ishiguro, fabulous author. Clara and the Sun was really good. Never Let Me Go, really good. I definitely want to continue reading Kazuo Ishiguro. These are the only 2 books that he wrote that fall into science fiction genre, like I said, but I definitely want to read A Pale View of the Hills, The Remains of the Day, possibly Kazuo Ishiguro's most famous, well-known novel. So let me know if you've read any Ishiguro. What are your thoughts? What's your favorite Ishiguro? Have you read The Dark Tower, Salem's Lot, anything that I talked about? If you have any comments, thoughts, let me know what you're reading right now. I love your comments. I answer every single one of them. Like, subscribe. I've been a little bit busy, so my videos are not coming as regularly as they did in the past. I hope you'll forgive me. I'm hoping to be able to continue with these videos, connecting with you. So anyway, July was incredible. 5 fabulous authors. So that's it for today. July was incredible. I'm looking forward to August. Let's go.